The bread hit her face before she even saw it coming. Warm lobster bisque dripped down her sweater, sliding past the buttons and pooling in her lap. The scent of saffron and cream filled her nose, but all Lena could smell was humiliation. Conversations around the room froze mid-sentence. Crystal glasses hovered in midair. Forks paused halfway to mouths. Gasps rippled through the golden plate, the most exclusive restaurant in the city, a place where even the cheapest appetizer cost more than most people made in a week. And at one of the tables near the center, laughter rang out. Not the warm kind. The cold, sharp kind that slices into the skin like glass. Guess they let anyone in here these days, a man's voice sneered. Lena's fingers trembled as she reached for a napkin. She dabbed gently at her sweater, ignoring the stares, ignoring the heat rising to her cheeks. Her cardigan was an old one, beige and worn thin at the elbows. Nothing like the tailored silk dresses and diamond necklaces glinting in the low golden light of the restaurant. She had been waiting for her husband. They were supposed to celebrate tonight. She'd been looking forward to it all week, even skipping lunch to afford dessert. But now, the dessert didn't matter. The evening didn't matter. Only one thought echoed in her mind: why do people think money gives them the right to treat others like this? The man who had thrown the bread, Travis Hensley, leaned back in his chair, smirking at his friends. His suit was perfectly tailored, his cufflinks glinting under the chandelier. Travis wasn't just rich, he was the kind of rich that liked everyone to know it. Lena heard one of his friends mutter, "Man, that's not cool," but Travis shrugged. "What? She doesn't belong here. I'm doing the place a favor." The sting of the words cut deeper than the act itself. Then the heavy oak doors at the front of the restaurant opened. A tall man in a simple black shirt and a worn leather jacket stepped inside. He wasn't dressed for this kind of place, but the shift in the room's atmosphere was instant. Heads turned. A couple of waiters straightened unconsciously. His eyes scanned the room once, and when he saw Lena, sitting frozen, soup stains across her sweater, his steps quickened. He reached her table, leaned down, and kissed her forehead softly. "What happened?" His voice was low, almost too calm. Lena shook her head. "It's fine, Ethan. Let's go somewhere else." But Ethan's gaze followed the small splatters of soup on the tablecloth, then the trail to the other table. Travis was still smirking, though a flicker of uncertainty passed over his face when their eyes met. Ethan walked over, placing one hand lightly on the back of Travis's chair. "You," Ethan said, his voice even. "Outside." Travis gave a short laugh. "You think I'm just gonna?" Ethan didn't raise his voice, didn't threaten. He simply leaned closer, his tone dropping to something almost conversational. "Leave. One word. No explanation. No theatrics." Travis's smirk faltered. Something in Ethan's eyes, not anger, but certainty, told him this wasn't a man to argue with. His friends shifted uncomfortably. "Man, it was just a joke," Travis mumbled. "Leave," Ethan repeated, just as calmly. And he did. No more laughter. No more arrogance. Just silence as he walked out, his expensive shoes clicking against the marble floor. Ethan returned to Lena's table, pulled out her chair, and sat down. "You okay?" he asked again. "I'm fine," Lena said softly, though her throat tightened. "I didn't want a scene." "That wasn't a scene," Ethan said. "That was the shortest lesson he's ever had." They finished dinner quietly. Ethan didn't bring up the incident again, but the way he held her hand across the table said everything. 2 days later, Lena's phone began buzzing non-stop. A video of the restaurant incident had appeared online. Someone had filmed the entire thing. Travis throwing the bread. Lena's quiet composure. Ethan's single word. The internet was obsessed. Comments poured in from around the world. "This is how you stand up for someone you love." Her grace and his calm, absolute class. That one word had more power than 100 insults. It should have ended there. But fate had more chapters to write. A week later, reporters discovered who Ethan really was. He wasn't just some man in a leather jacket, he was Ethan Cole, founder and CEO of Cole Industries, a multi-billion-dollar company with holdings in real estate, tech, and manufacturing. He was on Forbes' Billionaire list, though he had always avoided the spotlight. The revelation hit social media like a tidal wave. Suddenly, the story wasn't just about a man defending his wife, it was about a billionaire defending her without ever using his wealth to intimidate. When a journalist asked Ethan why he hadn't revealed who he was that night, he simply said, "Money shouldn't be the reason someone listens to you. Respect should." But the part the world didn't know, the part Lena thought about quietly in bed at night, was why Ethan had reacted the way he did. Years ago, before he built his company, Ethan had been a waiter in a fancy restaurant. He'd seen the cruelty rich guests could inflict on staff, how they made them feel invisible, small, less than human. And one night, when a wealthy customer had humiliated a young hostess to the point of tears, Ethan had promised himself something. "If I'm ever in a position to stop this kind of thing, I will." That promise had lived in him ever since. 2 months after the incident, the Golden Plate announced a new initiative: 10% of its monthly profits would fund free meals for struggling families in the city. The decision came from its newest co-owner, Ethan Cole, who had quietly purchased a majority share in the restaurant. When reporters asked him why, Ethan said, "A place's worth isn't measured by how it treats its wealthiest guests. It's measured by how it treats the quietest ones." Standing beside him, Lena smiled. She knew her husband wasn't interested in headlines or public praise. He cared about turning one act of cruelty into a chain reaction of kindness. As for Travis, the video had followed him everywhere. Clients dropped deals. His name became shorthand online for arrogance. Eventually, he released an awkward public apology, but by then, the lesson had been carved into his reputation. Lena never saw him again. She didn't need to. Some stories didn't need sequels, just closure. The night of the restaurant incident had started with humiliation. It ended with a quiet truth the world needed to hear. Kindness isn't weakness. Dignity doesn't need shouting. And sometimes, the most powerful stand you can take is just one word. Far from the chandeliers and crystal glasses, Lena and Ethan would sometimes talk about that night over simple home-cooked meals. She'd tease him about being mysterious billionaire man, and he'd laugh, telling her, "If I had it my way, no one would know my name. Only my actions." And in the end, that was the point. Because the wealthiest thing a person can own isn't money. It's the courage to stand up, the grace to stay calm, and the wisdom to know when one word is enough.